What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. That's 2022's first episode of Dynamite and the show's official debut on TBS. AEW is loading up its show. Join us now as we look at this week's edition of Dynamite, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including Vince intentionally removing Triple H's work, Bron has backstage heat, a sick injury on AEW, an Impact star signs with WWE, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now, as always, we won't recap the matches, but just look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, a championship classic. Now, last night's Dynamite featured 3 big championship contests, but Hangman Adam Page's AEW World Heavyweight Championship defense against Bryan Danielson was the highlight of the 3 title bouts, with both men working a fantastic match, and the announced team subtly telling the story of Page's quest to put Danielson away after their previous time limit draw. Page had lots to prove, and Danielson threw everything he had against him, only to find out it wasn't enough. This match was an epic encounter, as good as the 2 wrestlers' previous bout, and one that established Page as a fighting champion and one who could be champion for a long time to come. One of the biggest questions coming out of this match is what's next for Bryan, as AEW will need to be prudent about what's next for a man who debuted and quickly entered the world title picture. Although it would be short-sighted to say Danielson has no way to go, but down, the potential is still there. Number 2, catching lightning in a bottle again. MJF and CM Punk lit up Dynamite last night, so much so that the case can be made that the interaction overshadowed the main event bout between Hangman Adam Page and Bryan Danielson. Now, we won't overstate the obvious chemistry between the two, but we will say it's amazing how both men seem to catch lightning in a bottle every week, finding a new way to outdo their previous confrontations. MJF's threat to leave AEW if he isn't treated with respect, followed by his comment that he'd main event WrestleMania, was a great shot at Punk, who obviously never got to headline the Showcase of the Immortals and still has a hang-up about it. Seriously, it's like you mentioned CM Punk's failed UFC career and it'd be like this. Oh no, mention that he never got to headline WrestleMania and he's like this. Punk's barb that MJF could consider going to greener pastures and headlining night 4 of a buy one get one free pay-per-view then get released faster than he lasts in the sack was the perfect comeback and a good way to take a shot at WWE. Number 3, the champ is here. Jade Cargill is your inaugural TBS champion after defeating Ruby Soho in the tournament finals. Cargill's climb to the championship has been well booked, as AEW has done a terrific job building her up ever since her 2020 debut. And while Jade still has a long way to go in terms of in-ring performance, she's certainly not the first person to get a monster push without much experience in the ring. The challenge now is to see how she fares as champion, both in the ring and on the microphone. AEW's women's division has improved to the point where it has enough good workers to compete against Cargill, make her look good, and hopefully help her hone her craft. And number 4, new AEW Tag Team Champions. Last night's Dynamite featured an exciting bout between the Lucha Brothers and Jurassic Express that culminated in a boy and his dinosaur finally capturing the AEW Tag Team Championship. All 4 competitors shined, and while we still wish the match could have gone longer, it was still a sensational showdown. Unfortunately, as we'll see in the news, the wild match led to an injury to one of the participants. But that was the good. What about the bad? Is number 1, Jericho just for men. It's good to see Jericho back from his brief Fozzy sabbatical, but what on earth motivated the champion to go with an obvious dye job with his formerly blonde locks? While the 51-year-old grappling great has lost a step in the ring and has seen his physique fade due to the aging process, his choice of hair color is puzzling to say the least. Did Jericho lose a bet to one of his inner circle brothers, or did he just wake up and think 2022 calls for a dramatic change to the hair color that's worked for him for his entire life? All I'm saying is my man put that on like boot polish. Number 2, an underwhelming women's match. Now, as good as it was to see Jade Cargill win the TBS Championship, the match itself was surprisingly underwhelming. As previously mentioned, Jade Cargill still has much to learn in the ring, but Ruby Soho did little to help Cargill during the match. Soho has shown that she's a good wrestler, although it remains to be seen if she has a special it factor needed for a legitimate spot in the main event. It's unfortunate that this was a tournament final, as a TBS Championship had a number of solid matches leading up to it. And number 3, the Pillman push. Is AEW pushing Flying Brian Pillman Jr. too much? Now, while it may be a sensitive subject for some fans due to Pillman being the son of a beloved wrestler who died far too young, an objective look at Pillman Jr.'s work so far suggests he's getting a push greater than what he's showing in the ring. Flying Brian is a good worker, but he hasn't shown anything to distinguish himself from the many other good workers in AEW, and he's lacking when it comes to mic skills. Unless AEW has plans for Pillman that lead him to becoming a member of Aleister Black's rumored House of Black faction, there's no reason to feature the 28-year-old so much on Dynamite or even Rampage until he improves in the ring. Well, there was nothing downright ugly about last night's debut of Dynamite on TBS, as AEW loaded the show with stellar matches, segments that forwarded storylines, and got 2022 off to a great start. Now, AEW doesn't have another pay-per-view until 6 March, but last night's show demonstrated the promotion has plenty planned for the next few months, including new challenges for the newly crowned TBS champion and AEW World Tag Team Champions, as well as AEW World Champion Adam Page. What did you guys think of Dynamite last night? Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to the news. Our first story looks at Vince intentionally removing Triple H's work. Atop in today's news is a question many fans and wrestling pundits are asking about the WWE's most recent series of sackings: is Vince McMahon targeting his son-in-law Triple H? Now, while that remains to be seen, it's obvious that the releases are largely those associated with Triple H's version of NXT. Fightful Select is reporting, unanimously, the talent and staff familiar with the PC, NXT, and NXT 2.0 have said this is directly to remove numerous Triple H hires, with the exception being Allison Danger. WWE officials we spoke to didn't deny this and even said as much in their statement in kinder terms. This resulted in a huge overhaul and much of the Triple H era NXT names being let go of the company. As noted in our recent special report, the WWE released a number of NXT personnel, including producers, wrestlers, and other backstage officials. But while we pointed out that it doesn't take a genius to figure out why certain people were released, the wrestling media's penchant for overstating the obvious can be seen in the following tweet from Ringside News. When we asked around about WWE firing Triple H's people from NXT and whether it was a conspiracy, it's not only 100% legit, but it was also personal. Source, you're not a conspiracy theorist. It was Triple H's people, specifically Triple H's people, and it was all intentional. The big question is how personal these releases are. In our opinion, this is Vince McMahon's latest effort to remove all traces of Triple H's role in NXT, but it remains to be seen whether this is Vince's sledgehammer-style subtlety in reminding Triple H that NXT failed during the Wednesday Night War against AEW. Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, Bron Breakker's Backstage Heat. Now, if fans still have any doubts that Vince McMahon hates the previous version of NXT, they need look no further than Bron Breakker's entrance at NXT New Year's Evil, where he broke free from chains and then smashed a giant X that had an uncanny resemblance to the X from NXT's Black and Gold era. Apparently, Brecker's not so subtle symbolic smash didn't go over well, as Fightful Select is reporting several people that we spoke to within NXT felt that Bron Breakker being scripted to kick the Gold X in half was symbolic and many didn't like it. It's just more evidence that Mr. McMahon is making it abundantly clear how he feels about Triple H's version of NXT. Next up, Rey Fenix's sick injury. As bad news for Rey Fenix, as reports are coming in that the former AEW World Champion may need surgery to repair an apparent injury he suffered during he and Penta El Zero's match against Jurassic Express. Meltzer and Alvarez discussed his injury, with Alvarez noting, "I saw it and I was like, I can't even rewind it." Then they showed a replay. So horrible, gruesome injury. He was taken to hospital. I was told the feeling he was probably going to need surgery. Meltzer speculated on what the injury might be, believing it could be a dislocated elbow. Whatever the case, that was a sick injury, and we hope that Rey Fenix is okay and wish him for a full and fast recovery. And next up is a new AEW Star Injured. Rey Fenix may not be the only AEW wrestler who was injured last night. Former WWE superstar Jake Atlas worked a match against Adam Cole on Rampage, and while Atlas just signed in AEW, he may not step back into the ring for some time. Ringside News reported Atlas suffered an apparent knee injury during the bout. Fans in attendance said it looked like it might be serious. Jake was unable to even stand up to take the Panama Sunrise from Adam Cole. Alvarez updated the fans on the Wrestling Observer Radio saying, "Jake Atlas suffered a knee injury. I don't know, I was told he needed an MRI and it's possible that he's going to be alright, but he was hurting real bad in that match. Couldn't even get up to take the Panama Sunrise. So hopefully, first big match for AEW outside of the YouTube show, so hopefully he's alright." We're sending our best to Jake Atlas as he deals with this speed bump in his start to his AEW career. Next up, an Impact star signs with WWE. A Fightful Select is reporting that former Impact Wrestling star P.T. Williams has signed with WWE as a producer. Williams was reportedly working on a trial basis as a producer since last October, with his work proving impressive enough for the WWE to sign him up. Congratulations. And finally, Alexa Bliss's new look. And last but not least, Alexa Bliss is sporting a new look as she's recently posted pictures of a number of new ear piercings via Instagram. Bliss, who's being prepped for a return to Raw, has fans questioning what's next for her wrestling persona, and Sportskeeda thinks, judging by the tweets posted by WWE and Alexa Bliss herself, it looks like the former women's champion will be donning her current disturbed persona when she returns. Is that what you guys want? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.